Hi everyone, this is Muhammad Hamid Khan, and today I'm back with another podcast. So right now, nowadays I'm doing podcast over podcast, and this is gonna be very interesting podcast. When it comes to SEO and business management, and specifically clients management, I'm gonna not go deep into a specific discipline of SEO, but something that grows a website, not just from SEO, but overall management that plays an important role. So, and I have let me introduce the guest, and I have George Kocher with me, and he has joined me today. And By the way, I've been following George, and we've been connected and discussing uh, the stuff he's been managing. And interestingly, he's in the industry since like for more than 8 or 9 years, and he's running his own agency called Brand North, where he's helping clients achieving their growth numbers. And mainly, what really caught my attention was he was implementing Koray's framework for the websites he's like running, like managing for the clients. And just wanted to sit and wanted to know his process, how he manages everything, and his success story, by the way, which I got to know from him, that he sold a company and a website for $200 million, and which was generating leads 65,000 per month. And definitely we're gonna discuss everything, not maybe everything, but maximum things that that are connected with each other. So before moving forward, I think it's better to hand over to George to like introduce himself for the like audience. My audience basically about topical authority, semantic SEO, and mainly doing business. So I thought it would make some connection. Then we can start some interesting questions. So thank you, George, first of all, joining, and please introduce yourself for the audience.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Happy to be on. I appreciate the work that you've been doing and just highlighting. I think it's really important that everyone can get an understanding and kind of like simplification. And I think you've done a good job at that. And I've had we were talking about before, I've had the pleasure of working with your brother, which has been cool. But yeah, so I'm George Kocher. I run an agency. My background is a little bit different than a lot of different agency owners. I think I've had a kind of a strange path to doing SEO, but it's been rewarding. So I started my career off. I went to Cornell, studied economics, and was very interested in finance. My whole goal was to get a job at a finance company, work on Wall Street after I graduated college, which I did successfully, which was surprising because I graduated college right when the recession was happening, and like right in the aftermath of 2008 housing crisis and stuff. But I was still able to get a job on Wall Street and really enjoyed it. It was one of the larger banks, so that was great for my career. Started off really super high, fast-paced environment, managing a lot of money, a lot of responsibility, things like that. But ultimately, I realized that I didn't just want to get good at trading charts and numbers on a screen. I wanted to really learn how to grow and run companies. So ultimately, I ended up leaving that, and I got a job with a company that was funded by a private equity firm, still very small, one of the very early employees there. And yeah, what you were referencing was that was a great experience for me because I was able to shift from trading into a management position at a fast-growing company. Really was not ever planning on being involved in marketing, but it just occurred to me very early on that the success or failure of that business was almost 100% based on digital marketing outcomes. So I started getting involved in that process first from an analytical standpoint, where we're spending so much money on marketing that I had to really understand the breakdown of where we were spending the money. It just felt like a black hole when I came into it. Like, oh, we're spending $2 million a month on marketing, which is a very large number of amount of money to spend on marketing. And like, where is it going? You know, like literally, like where is the money going? And I started to track that. I started getting an understanding of that, and I implemented a CRM system so that I could understand the, essentially KPIs for every different marketing channel. And then I was managing an SEO company that was doing the SEO for us and kind of managing AdWord vendors and things like that. I ended up taking over the Salesforce slowly. And I just had like a lot of professional curiosity about it because I thought it was very interesting. And I started learning from working with the agency that was actually doing the work. And then I started to take courses, and I started to kind of just like build my own websites on the side because I wanted to learn about it. So I started a little side hustle, and just kind of crazy because I was making really good money at that company doing what I was doing, but I was still like, I want to make more. I also really want to learn about this. So I actually started kind of picking up a couple local clients all the way back then in 2016, 2017. And yeah, I really got into it, and I did that. That company sold, and then I did the same thing with another company. It was really good for my reputation because that, like you said, that company grew really fast. It went from zero to selling for $200 million in a 3-year period of time. So kind of like unheard of growth, at least in that industry and that company. And I learned a lot about it. So people started calling me and asking me to work for them and stuff like that. And so that was what I did afterwards. And I was much more hands-on after that because I'd already learned a lot from that experience. So then instead of hiring another agency, I built it in-house. And I got to actually manage a marketing team. And I think it's relevant because I was forced in that position to look at all different marketing channels and not just SEO. So I love SEO. I have spent more time on the implementation of SEO and really getting into the weeds with it. I do, like I've taken Koray's course personally. I've been following him personally since really started producing YouTube videos. So I'm very interested in learning the specifics about SEO, but I think from the start of my career, I was really forced to look at all different marketing channels because I was in the seat of having to report back to the chief financial officer of that business. And he didn't want to just hear about SEO. He wanted to hear about everything, right? So I have a lot of respect for all different channels of marketing. We also offer AdWords and a lot of different services. But I guess the point is that was when I really got into it, started really learning very hands-on, and started getting pretty outstanding results. And then after that, same thing, that company sold, and I decided that I didn't want to be on a plane for 5 days a week anymore. I kind of wanted to start a family, and didn't want to just be traveling all the time because that's what I was doing. And yeah, so after that, I started my agency. I guess I started it before then because I was picking up local clients the entire time, actually. So from all the way back when I first started learning it, I said that I started kind of taking courses. I started building websites myself, really just to learn. But I did start picking up some local clients that were just kind of like low management, and grew revenue to the point where I felt like I had a little bit of a backstop before I left my job. I mean, I was giving up a really large salary with a lot of different incentives and stuff like that. So it was pretty scary, but I'd, kind of been working on gaining some local clients, mostly just through friends and family and stuff like that. But I've been doing it for almost 4 years at that point. And I had about a decent amount of clients at that point. So it's like, you know what, I'm going to take the jump. And I started my own agency. And now we're focused on very similar things, like high growth companies that are not super large, usually not like a publicly traded company or something like that, but a company that usually is doing a minimum of $5 million of revenue and want to grow to, 10, 20, $100 million in revenue. And that's kind of like our sweet spot, is that sort of. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my experience.
Amazing. So you're almost into everything, and that's super interesting. And by the way, I know the excitement, like after selling the website or business. So I've really come to that specific project that you started. Is like you worked on that website for almost 3 years, and then you sold that website. So I'll definitely love to ask some questions. But before that, if I ask, what are your like main strengths? Because like in business, you almost know about everything. I mean, SEO, you know about client management, and you have to report to the client. So you know the must know the discipline like you're offering or services you're offering to the client. But what is your by the main strength?
Yeah, I would actually say that my main strength is not SEO. My main strength is being able to look at a business and understand what are the true revenue drivers of that business. Like, how does that business actually make money? That's what I'm always trying to figure out. Whenever I have a new engagement or I'm speaking to somebody, I want to go back to first principles and understand literally how does that business make money? Because if I don't approach it from that frame, that kind of mindset, then what's going to happen is we're going to go really far down the road and not really have the right results, right? So in translation, if you think about the way that Koray explains it, I want to understand the central entity of that business, right? Like that's what I'm really trying to figure out first. Like how does that business make money? What's the central entity? Like what is the search intent of that business? And then I actually look at it from one step higher than that. So I'm trying to understand the central entity and the search intent, the real revenue drivers of that business. And then I'm looking at ways to fulfill that the most effectively. And the definition of most effectively can vary based on that business. SEO can take time, right? And just because SEO may or may not be a good channel or revenue driver for that business. And similarly, speed is also very important for businesses. So not only what is the revenue driver, but how much does volume matter and when does it matter? And then I'm trying to fill that pain point with the business. And most of the time we're doing that through SEO, but I won't take a client on unless it really makes sense for that business. Like if I wouldn't do that, if I was the business owner, then I won't work with that client because I know it's not going to end up successful. So I like to joke and say that we have 100% success rate, but I do game those numbers because I'm only working with businesses where I really know that we're going to be able to succeed. So I think that that's kind of my strong suit, is understanding that and then being able to track it and track every different source and how it actually relates back to revenue. Because at the end of the day, that's what I care about. And that's why I have clients and that's why I exist, is to make them revenue, not to get them rankings, right? I care about revenue and not just rankings. So I'm trying to accomplish that in many different ways and look at it from a holistic digital marketing perspective, not just a holistic SEO perspective.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I really love this approach. Like instead of just focusing on wrong KPIs, you have to set the right KPIs in the first place. And you said which changes based on every type of business, your user basically. You first understand your user, right? So I mean, when it comes to management, like client management, for example, I've seen like mainly SEOs, not just SEOs, many agency owners struggling with managing clients and they were not like having a good relationship with the client, or they were like, and even that's why most of the startups fail when it comes to providing marketing services, digital marketing services. So according to your approach or experience, what is the like biggest mistake you have seen people making? And then I would like love to ask, like, what's the resolution for for that mistake?
It's an interesting question. What do you say? And I actually have what comes to my mind is a response that you might not expect. But I think the biggest problem is actually that agencies don't charge enough money. Like I really think that that's the biggest problem, because what ends up happening is like you're trying to get the business and you're trying to close the client, right? But if you don't set the right expectations and you don't charge enough money, then you end up setting yourself up for failure and the client up for failure. And like it's not scalable and repeatable. And I think that a lot of people, when they're starting out an agency, they look at it as if they're gonna do the work. How much money am I gonna make from doing this work? But that's not scalable, right? Like you need to have a salary, you need to have a management structure in place that isn't going towards the direct deliverables, right? So yourself, your own salary, all of your management's salaries, right? And then the people that are actually doing the execution. And a lot of that gets overlooked, right? So for instance, if I'm going to take on a client myself, let's say I don't have a company and I'm just going to do the work. I'm capable of doing the work for, several clients. I know how to do everything, right? I can build the website. I can do the graphic design. I can do I can write the content. I can do the topical map. I can do the content brief. I can write the content. I can publish the content. I can get the backlinks. Like I can do all of the things, right? So if I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it like that, then there's a large profit margin in that because I'm doing the work. But all that I'm doing is actually trading my time for money, right? And that's not an agency. That's a freelancer, right? And I think that a lot of people charge as if they're a freelancer and not as if they're an agency. And that ends up causing all sorts of problems because as you scale and grow, you're going to reach a point where you can no longer do all of the work yourself. And then all of a sudden, you're charging enough money because now when you have to pay employees and team members to do that work, you're barely making any money or you're actually losing money on that client, right? And that doesn't work. So then you're overworked and you're trying to you're really not doing a good job. And then the client isn't getting the results that they actually need. So I'm just a big believer in transparency, like charge price so you can actually do the right work, right? If a client's competitor has published 1,000 well-written blog posts and they have 1,500 backlinks in a DR of 60, and you're working with somebody that's starting a new website, then it's your responsibility as an agency owner to tell them actually how much money it's going to cost for them to compete in this.
Yeah.
And that's their responsibility because they started the business and that's what it costs. It's not your fault that it costs money. And I think that a lot of people get into that mindset of, oh, well, I can't charge $10,000 a month. I can't charge $15,000 a month. Well, if that business actually wants to get the results that they need, that you have to build an entire team around them. Like you're basically working as a staffing agency at that point. And you can have SOPs and like a whole framework that's set up on how to best deliver that, but they need dedicated writers and need dedicated people to actually get the right results. And if you don't have that, then you can't get that business to where it needs to be in a way where you can also continue growing. So there becomes this friction point that ends up happening. And I think it's the biggest kind of recurring negative that happens with agencies. So it's a mix of like setting the right expectations, but also realizing what it actually costs to deliver that type of quality. And I think that most people just don't charge enough to actually deliver quality because they're trying to do most of the work themselves and they're not actually charging for their time.
Amazing. I would 1000% agree with the thing just you said. Like I've also seen people become greedy when it comes to like getting clients, and they just try to onboard the client and not think for the long term. Like after 6 months, what will happen if there will be no results? They just try to onboard, and one more thing, like you said, they hire on like less affordable prices, but they also, because to justify the cost, they also hired the cheap resources to provide services for them, and then they compromise on quality, and everything goes down wrong from the starting point. And starting point is like setting the right expectations. And this is really very important thing to first start with. And by the way, like I've worked many brands, like in-house as well, like with agencies as well, as a consultant as well. But what I thought, agency in agency project management is one of the toughest things so far when it got compared with other models, because you have to deal with multiple clients at the same time, setting their expectations and different services for different clients, and frequently changing their strategies and plans. I mean, when it comes to agency, according to your if I ask your approach, for example, uh, I mean, in agency, how would you make sure that your clients, like managing meeting multiple clients' expectations with the right resources and everything, connecting everything and making everything quality, for example? So, how do you like manage everything and your clients are also satisfied?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. I mean, it's the most difficult question with agencies. It's been very difficult for me, honestly, much more difficult than I expected it to be. Kind of had like a lot of business success before I started my agency, and I expected to roll into SEO and just crush it. Honestly, that was what I thought was going to happen. And yeah, I've done very well, but it's been more difficult to scale an agency than I expected, because I was able to do really good SEO on one website, right? Like I proved that multiple times, but that doesn't matter again, because I'm not trying to be the one that's actually doing the work. So I know that I can't grow to the revenue numbers that I want to if I'm just doing the work, right? So scaling ends up becoming very difficult. Like an example of that is I grew these businesses, I did SEO, all sorts of stuff like that. Like I never had to worry about server scaling and stuff like that. Like, like that was just something that I never dealt with. I never had to worry about like, are we going to be using Cloudflare as a CDN and, this, that, and the other thing. Like that was kind of handled, those sorts of things were handled for me. And I didn't realize how difficult it is to actually be able to set up SOPs for security, for client results, for KPIs, all of those different things. Like to do it one time is simple, to do it 50 times is not simple. And to do it 100 times is also not simple. And to put those things in place is definitely very difficult. I think that it is not an easy business. And I think the amount of people that actually are able to make it out from a freelancer to actually running a successful business is actually very small. I don't think there are actually a lot or as many successful digital marketing companies as people think that they are. There's a lot of successful digital marketing freelancers, but not necessarily companies. And there is a big distinction. And I bootstrapped my company. I was employee number one, and I have, like, I would say recently gotten out of it being a freelancing business with a bunch of consultants, and now I would actually consider myself a real business. But it's taken a long time to be able to do that, and I had to be able to grow revenue enough and kind of do a lot of the grunt work myself until the point where revenue was enough that now I can really hire a players and have a management team that's really solid and being paid what they need to be paid.
Amazing stuff. Yeah, agency life is not easy because different clients. Every client is in a hurry. For example, I mean, they come and like they need ranking, or for example, results in like in for example in SEO, most of the clients say, okay, there's been like just 3 months past. Where are the results? So for example, when it comes to your management, how would do you select set the right expectations first of all, and then how you align your team to assure that expectations are meeting? Because I see you are like working with remote teams as well, like freelancers. So it's don't you think it's like very tough to manage remote teams together and making sure your client is also happy? So this is another thing. But first of all, how do you set the right expectation for each client? Do you, for example, just adding one more thing for the uh, for instance, like if a website is just starting new and they're like competitors who have like dr good number of pages published, have good topical authority states, getting for example thousands or millions of traffic, but the client want results in like 3 6 months or even 1 year. Do you like first analyze the competitors or see, okay, this is the budget you need, this is the month that the campaign, overall campaign will be running, then you tell some estimation about time and cost to the client? Or how would, what's your process in that?
Yeah. So I actually, somebody that talks about this a lot is Stephen Kang, from the SEO. I think it's the SEO Signals Group. But yeah, he speaks about this a lot, and I kind of take a similar approach to him, where I try to start with an audit, and I'll actually do a paid audit of everything, so they can, pay us a little bit of money. So it's not a ton. I'm not trying to make a lot of money from doing an audit, but I'm covering the cost of the team's time. And the purpose of that is really they're paying me to create a proposal for them, right? Because depending on the business, like if it's a super local business and like, you can look at it for 5 minutes and see like their, top competitor is in one specific city and they have a DR of 10 and, 20 pages on their website, then like, I don't need to do all that. But if I'm working with a larger business, I'm going to actually do a paid audit first, where I'm going to analyze all of their different marketing channels and obviously SEO, and come up with the reality of what is it actually going to take financially to achieve their goals, and different timelines associated with that. Because money changes timelines, right? And based on the goals of the business and their expectations, like it might be very realistic. It also might mean that the team has to be double the size. So they have to pay double the amount if they want those results in 3 months, right? If that's what they need to do, then that's fine. Like anything can be accomplished, and money fixes a lot of things. So that's
Yeah.
possible in many circumstances. But if they have a budget that they are committed to and stuck with, and their budget, I know based on, we've built enough websites, I've worked on enough websites that I know how long it takes and what it costs to actually get results, then, and they don't have enough money to pay for those results, where it's not realistic that I can get them results within 3 months, then I'm not going to lie to them. I'm going to tell them that based on your budget, based on the competitors, based on our experience and past results, which should hopefully translate to future results, not a notice when you're giving financial advice or stock trading. But I'm going to just tell them that based on your budget, I can't get you results in 90 days, period. Like if that's the budget that you want to stick to, then it's going to be more like 9 months or a year before you start getting results based on your competitors and based on what I think is possible. So I would approach it like that. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think money solves almost every problem. So that's the good answer.
That's what it comes down to.
So
Like if they have certain results that they want to get, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. Like that's what I always go back to. Like if they want to get X amount of new revenue in 90 days, then I have a lot of tools in my tool set to be able to do that. I can do it through SEO. I can do it through AdWords. I can do it through Facebook. We can do it through organic social media. There's a lot of different ways to do that if they want results in 90 days. And there's, again, just going back to the first example, they're starting at zero. They're competing against a website with 1,000 blog posts and, they've got decent topical authority, which a lot of websites are very competitive, right? If you're working in personal injury attorneys or you're working in competitive e-commerce or like what the space that we play in, behavioral healthcare, it's just extremely competitive. And a lot of the people that I'm competing against are in Koray's course, right? Like a lot of people are operating at a high level in these industries. So to expect that you're going to be able to go from zero to hero in 90 days is unrealistic. But if they have revenue goals that they want to hit, then, they can run ads or they can do something else to accomplish that.
Great. So for example, if a new website, you just onboarded a new client and client has a good budget, no problem with the cost. Client don't knows about marketing and which channel is more beneficial for him. For example, he just want leads. For example, like a local SEO client who want to dominate in, for example, construction business, like roof replacement, for example, in a specific country, and he just want leads. So how would you start for that client? I mean, you start with a specific channel first, like first paid ads or like SEO, or you start almost every channel, like email, like social, like paid, for example, and like how you set priorities, for example?
Yeah, I would I would just explain it to them in a very simple way. Like I would try to get an understanding of what their budget is, and then I would make recommendations based on their budget. And so if let's say they have a budget, it's a local roofing company and they have a budget of $2,000 a month.
$2,000.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Because this is what always happens, right?
Yeah.
So the local client, they have $2,000 a month to spend on marketing, period. Right. I'm going to basically tell them that, okay, if, like how quickly do you need new business? That's probably the first question that I'm going to ask. Like, how quickly do you actually need new business? Right. All right. So let's just do what you want to do, like a mock. You be the client. I'll be. So how long? All right. You're now the roofing. You're the roofing company. So how quickly do you need new business?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay. So based on that response, I'm probably going to recommend that you're going to have to do AdWords because you need immediate results. And the only way to get immediate results is you can pay for ads, and then that ad is going to show up and somebody's going to click on that ad and then they're going to call. So you can get leads tomorrow if you want to spend your budget on AdWords. We'll probably spend about $1,200 on ads. You pay us the rest to manage it. So that's one way to approach it. However, you have to understand that if you're going to do AdWords, there's pros and cons to it. And one of the cons is that you're not building up organic topical authority. You're not growing an investment in your business. The day that you stop running ads with us, everything goes away and the phone stops ringing. So if you
This
want
is
to,
also my concern.
yeah,
Mm,
which is a concern for a lot of people. But if you want to
mm,
invest in SEO, invest in building an asset for your business that's going to deliver long-term, more sustainable results, then we can talk about SEO, but the timeline isn't going to be the same. You're not going to receive leads tomorrow. So, based on looking at your competitors and their authority and so on and so forth, we'll be able to give you a timeline for that, but it's not going to be tomorrow and it might not even be within 6 months. So which one do you want to do?
mhm, 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 mhm. Okay. Do you okay, ads is one thing for quick result clients, but if client want to stick for want to play long term game, I
Hmm.
mean, they want to beat, for example, if they come up with a goal like we want to beat this competitor in the SERP at any cost, and competitor has, for example, you can say thousand of pages, they have 200 employees, marketing work, for example, working for them. Everything is they're beast, for example, in that industry. I mean, let's take MailChimp as an example in email marketing. So, by the way, I've beaten MailChimp on for a keyword email marketing for small business. I've beaten them. Uh, I ranked a blog top on them. So that was amazing. So, for example, they want to beat some specific competitors in organic. Then what would be your strategy for that? Like from you can tell from scratch. Okay, I'll do this. Then I will do this. You can take shift your. I mean, take different roles for different scenarios, for example. And yeah, this is what I
Yeah.
want.
So we would start with an SEO audit, and that audit would be not only of their website, but it would be of their competitors. Market research, really. I would call it more than an audit. We're doing market research and really get an understanding of who they are and who their competitors are, and try to get an understanding of how large does the topical map and semantic content network that we're going to create, like how much effort is that going to take, and what's it going to take to realistically start beating those businesses. And then I'm going to let them know my kind of philosophy in which I came up with those numbers, why I came up with those numbers, and what our plan is going to be to do that. And I give that to the client, and they can move forward or not, or they can take it and they can bring it to another company, or they can in-house if they want, right? Like it's theirs. They paid me to give them a recommendation. They paid me for the audit. So I wouldn't move forward unless they were with a company like that, of that size, of that caliber, that's going to be competing against MailChimp without actually spending some real time on it. Right. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is I'm going to actually spend real time on it and give a very realistic proposal of what I think will actually happen. Right. My best guess, based on all of the information that I have at my disposal, to really come up with a true plan. I think of that as the first, it's like what I would do if they actually engaged with me. It's the first 2 weeks, right? Like it's a 2 week sprint where we're actually evaluating the market. We're understanding the central, search intent. We're understanding, all of the different things. And then we're coming up with a plan, and we're presenting that plan to the client. And then if they want to proceed forward with it, then we'll implement the plan. And I do it that way because I feel like it's number one, it's really a good thing for that business. They're getting an expert opinion, right, on what it actually is. They can go to other people and
Yeah.
get other expert opinions, but this is an expert opinion that we've actually spent time on. And if I'm just making a proposal and sending and firing it out without being paid to really do research, then it really is just a guess, right? And
Mm,
I don't want to do the work it's going to take to come up with a real proposal without being paid for it, for a company that's that size, right? Because outranking MailChimp, it's impressive that you've done that, but it's a big deal, right? It's not easy to do, and it takes a whole strategy to be able to do that. So I'd want to understand, what does it actually take? What is it actually going to take to win? Because I want to win. And if that's the case, I want like it's going to take me a little bit of time, and it's going to take my company a little bit of time to come up with that. So I'll just do a small, inexpensive paid audit to kind of cover the cost of our time and understanding what it actually is. And that's how I'd approach it.
Yeah, nice, nice. I really love this approach, like doing market research first and first analyze, okay, we're gonna do this, what will be the outcomes and everything. So, and client will know as well, okay, this is gonna be, you're gonna be do this in the future, and this will be the whole picture. I mean, transparency, I would say, is on top of everything. This is how, I mean, helps building some good relationship with the client. Maybe if after one audit client don't like want to continue, for example want to start, maybe they can come after some time by comparing or getting quote from other companies, because you said what. So this is, I guess, for the long term it's good transparency thing. But okay, so let's suppose you have given them a timeline for 2 years, and they just wanted to rank on a phrase, and you said, okay, 2 years will be required to rank on this phrase. So now when it comes to actual SEO campaign, from where you will start, I mean, content, for example, links or whatever, what's your go-to strategy?
Yeah, so we do I think exactly the way that Koray tells it. We try to look at the website from a holistic perspective and understand, are there well, first off, actually, what we're doing no matter what is we're rebuilding the website. The first thing that we do no matter what, honestly, almost all of the time. It's different if it's like a very large enterprise company that has worked with that website for a long time. But I've just found in terms of scaling an agency that it's very difficult and costly to work with other people's frameworks and how they build websites. Like, we're taking over a lot of times websites that are built on, some bloated theme that was done by somebody 6 years ago, and it's got critical errors, and there's, all of this different stuff. And it actually costs a lot more to maintain that website and try to fix it than just rebuilding it. So we have a framework that we've developed that is really SEO friendly. It's really lightweight. It has a lot of the features that we've already done. And I've invested a lot of money into doing that, because I just believe that it's one of the important things to SEO, obviously, is like, I don't want to take over a problem. I want to start on the right footing. So we're going to rebuild the website. We're going to put it into a framework that's really clean, that we have thousands of different design elements that have already been built. I've got hundreds of different versions of menus. I've got hundreds of different featured images and calls to action and stuff. So it's very simple for us to build in kind of like a drag and drop way from a design perspective, because we've already built everything. Like, every website that we've ever built, we take design features from it and bring it into our framework, right? So it's very easy for us and fast for us to build websites. So I think that's a really major differentiator. So anyways, the bottom line is, we start out, there's several different sprints that are kind of happening simultaneously. One of them is a content audit and research and creation of a new topical map and whatever the first semantic content network is going to be, or cleaning up or deleting articles from the past. But it all focuses around content and Koray's kind of framework on the like content side of things. Then we're also looking at the website. How does the website function? Are there a lot of different errors in Google Search Console, so on and so forth? And then so the topical map is getting done, outlines are being created, content is being written. Simultaneously, we're rebuilding the website, and we're also implementing better tracking and all of the different things that we do to connect it with the CRM system, so that we can actually judge revenue and not just rank, like I was talking about before. So we're implementing all of these things at the same time, and then we're going to usually relaunch the website in most cases. If that's not the best thing for the business, then I won't do that. Like, I'm not going to rebuild MailChimp's website. But, most of the time with the size websites that we're working on, which I said the companies are usually between $5 million in revenue and about $20 million in revenue when we're starting with them. And our goal is to get them to 100 million. Sometimes we are starting with companies that are doing $100 million in revenue, and in which case, like, we're going to have to come up with a completely custom plan that maybe doesn't involve rebuilding the website. But usually most of the time that's what we're going to do. And that's just what we've found is going to get the best and quickest results for clients, because now when we're working out our, semantic content network, it's coming with a new website and all of these things. And we've just seen really good results from that happening. So we're like injecting trust into the website by not only updating the content, but we're giving it a faster, better UI, better, kind of like SEO friendly framework. So I know that was a long answer, but hopefully that was helpful.
I was expecting a more longer answer, so that's a good concise. Will you also do links or no?
We do. And it's just kind of my philosophy that, look, I think what Koray has done, I don't know exactly how Koray does it. I respect the heck out of him. There's probably nobody I've learned more from in SEO, but I think that he's doing it in a way where he's just got so much demand for his services because he's so sought out. He's been able to kind of position himself as a thought leader in the industry. So he's able to kind of just do outlines or different things. I can't even say that because I don't know if that's true, but it seems like he'll use writers from the company and different things like that. And my experience is just that maybe I don't have the right target client base to be able to do that, or I'm just not presenting it the right way, but it hasn't really worked very well for us to do that. What I've found is just that a lot of clients don't want to work with multiple different vendors. And so we do try to handle as many things as possible to them. I don't want to work with somebody and then tell them to go find a link building agency. We'll, work with different digital PR companies, and we have our own internal backlink strategy. We're doing Hero, and we're doing, we have a whole, guest post strategy to get really good links, and we're doing, really high end content that's getting natural links and different things like that. But like there are a lot of times when we'll do a digital PR campaign or something like that, and we'll just tell the client what it costs. But I've just found it's better. I like to be the point of contact rather than having the client have to go and find multiple different vendors. I like them to just go through us to do that.
Okay, you mentioned about having proper systems in place about everything, like revamping the site, for example, in terms of UI, for example, and implementing framework in terms of and doing content production. Content production, I feel, is one of the difficult or challenging parts so far with me, because you go deep into each micro level. So, for example, when it comes to your agency, you said you have systems in place, and what can you tell me about those systems and how you have built those systems? You're using any sort of tools, or you just documented everything on Notion, or what kind of thing you basically have?
Yeah, my philosophy on it has changed a lot from running an agency. It's interesting. I mean, I used to have the most intricate SOPs and all of this stuff. My Asana was like way over engineered. And now we've kind of changed that a little bit. It is still very in depth, but we've basically, we do a lot of training. So when an employee joins the team, they have a lot of different training that I've kind of come up with and built over, the last several years. So they learn a lot when they're coming on. And then we do have project management. That's all stored in Notion. Use Asana or whatever tool you want to use for project management. A lot of communication through Slack. But I think the main thing is that it's really hard to implement topical SEO, right? It's really, really hard. It doesn't matter. What I've found is like how many different project management tools you actually have. Once you start getting to a certain scale, it's really becomes about the type of employees and the management structure that it has. Because it doesn't matter how many tasks are in a project management system. If somebody doesn't understand, they don't understand, and they're not going to be able to do it the right way. So kind of, I guess what we've really done at the end of the day and what's made the difference is I'm just hiring people that have taken the course that actually understand this stuff, right? Like I want to hire as many people as I can that have gone through Koray's course. I'm serious. Like if you have gone through the course and you understand it, hit me up for a job. Because I just it's very hard to learn and understand these concepts. So if you've learned it, I would rather work with somebody that's learned it rather than have to train them from the start. Koray's already kind of done the hard work of training for me, so I'll hire anybody that's got their certificate from Koray's course. It's very helpful, right? So I think it's about that, having people that understand, or if you have people that are coming on that don't understand, understanding that it's your responsibility to teach them. And that's really important. And then setting it up in just kind of like a lean management structure where it's actually repeatable. And that took me a really long time. We're actually changing the way that we manage our content team right now because it was still getting a little bit out of control. Like doing this for 50 plus clients is super difficult. It's super, super difficult.
Even for one client, it's very difficult. So for 50 client, I can imagine. By the way, how do you hire the right people? They just see it has it has expertise, good CV, good interview, but most of the times, I mean, it happens when a person got on board and start the job, things change because from theory perspective, things are very different. But when it comes to practical, so or pressure handling, for example, working in a specific type of environment which you have built, for example, or understanding your systems, how do you bridge that gap? Like, how do you say that, okay, this person gonna be a good, for example, addition to your team?
Yeah. There's a few different ways. I'll say one thing is I'm totally honest, and I'm being transparent with you, and I'm out here in the trenches. I've hired so many people that haven't worked out, and it stinks when that happens. It's not good. It's not good for me. It's not good for the business, not good for the other people that are on the team, right? Seeing people come and go isn't positive for morale. So it's something that I've done a lot, sadly, of hiring the wrong people. And I think a lot of it, we still do that all the time, where we'll bring somebody on, they won't be necessarily the right fit for the role. For my organization personally, I'm looking for people that, number one, are accountable and proactive and honest. Right. Those are the three traits that I'm looking for. Number one, you can have the most skill sets in the world. Like you can be the, best person that's ever taken Koray's course and, do all of these different things and really be just extremely talented. But if you don't have accountability, honesty, and the proactive attribute, then it's going to be really difficult for you to succeed in my organization, at least. Like at Brand North, we're growing so fast that I don't have a lot of time to hold people's hands. So my philosophy is always I tell everybody that joins my team to ask for forgiveness and not permission, right? You have to just do the things. And if you did the wrong thing, then like ask me for forgiveness. Like, you made a mistake, then whatever, I'll get over the mistake. But it's better to make a mistake than do nothing. So I always try to really instill that. And I think that's something that is a little bit more of an inherent personality trait rather than, the opposite, where you're either proactive or you're not proactive. And so I'm looking for these things when I'm going through the interview process, and then I'm looking for the skill set after that. So, we'll do an interview, usually 2 different interviews. I have an awesome operating officer who really helps to find different talent, and we'll do an interview with them. I will as well. And then we'll bring them on for a paid test. So we'll give them a week of actual tasks and we'll pay them for it if they make it through the interviews. So we'll essentially give them some work that's not like fully joining the team, but we always have work that needs to be done because we're always growing. So we'll basically assign a couple of tasks with them and give them a week and pay them a fair amount for that week and see how they do. And there's no better way, in my opinion, to do it rather than that, because everything is just a lot of talk until you're actually seeing it. So I like to kind of go through that interview process, make sure that they have those traits of accountability, of honesty and being proactive. And then after that, we're testing their actual skill, which is done through a paid test, which takes about.
Yeah, this is what I was doing. I mean, task would maybe like 90% of the time you assess a person. Like you can say that, okay, the practical thing. And by the way, with the like incomings, or you can say the launched of AI tools, I mean, it's very common. I mean, especially for writers, I've been like facing a lot of challenges, like they were using AI. Right today, I mean, AI is not a problem if you use it in the right way. So I think practical approach you mentioned is very one of the good, or I would say still the best approach so far. Okay.
What I used to do was the opposite. I've failed with it a lot of times. So this is fairly new that we're doing it like this, but essentially in the past, what I used to do was interview and then hire and then start training them. So then they start going through all that training and stuff like that. And then I realized like I'm basically paying for like almost a month of training, and that person may or may not be good after I've already paid for that month. Right. So now I am paying more money because I'm hiring people where the expectation is that they already have the skill set. Right. Like they probably have already, if it's for SEO, like they've probably already gone through the course, or they have enough experience where they've been doing SEO for a long time. Right. So I'm focused on training specifically on our systems and process, but there's a really strong foundation there. Whereas like in the past, I think I was hiring people that were a little bit more inexperienced and trying to train them to have them level up. And now I'm trying to hire people that have already, in a sense, leveled up, that are really sharp people. I want really smart people that are on my team that are accomplished, that can continue to grow with my company. They've already got experience. They've already had a successful career to an extent, right? And then so I'm starting with testing instead of starting with education, and that's been a pretty big shift in our process. I think that's been good for them and for us, because the other way is also not really fair to them, where like I've paid money, I've paid their salary for a month, I've invested in training them, they're getting my information and stuff, but we haven't really figured out what that person can actually do until they're done with that. So it's like, if they go through a month of working with a company and then it ends up that like they really didn't gain very much from the training and they actually aren't a very good fit for our company and they can't do the work, then it's like, well, we've gone almost like 45 days, and now I'm going to have to fire that person. And it really could have been just taken care of so much easier, and it would have been better for them and better for us. So I like the kind of strategy that we've been doing now, where it's like we're paying right away, doing a test, they're getting some tasks, understand their skill level and competence, and then give them either the test will turn into full-time employment or it won't. And either way, that's fine because they got paid for it. We got a little bit of work done. Risk is kind of minimal on both sides, and that's worked much better for me.
Everything you said, basically, I can relate and totally agree with you. Yeah. Okay, so I guess just a couple of questions left, and one last, or maybe the second last question I have in mind. For example, people who are in the same boss, in same boat like you, like they're starting their agencies, or for example, they're facing challenges in scaling their agency, their marketing agency, for example. What top advice you would like to give to them? I mean, you learn from like years of experience, years of mistakes, years of failures. Every person has gone through the failures to being better himself, better version of himself. So I think that's fine. Failures are fine. So the people who are like starting or just running their agencies, what advice you would like to give them?
Yeah, I would say that you should pay yourself a real salary. That's important, is to pay yourself a real salary and actually understand the economics of your business. I know that might be very contrary. We're on a topical authority type of podcast, obviously, but I just think that it's my nature. I always try to go back to an overall perspective, and you can't do topical SEO well. You can't implement any of these systems. You can't grow a successful business where you're successfully helping other people if the economics of your business don't make sense. So I would say take care of the economics of your business first, and you should pay yourself a salary, and you should pay your team what they deserve and the right amount for that, because you don't understand what your actual profit margin or your costs are unless you do that. If you're not paying yourself a salary and you're just taking profit out of the business, then you don't actually know how much you're making on a month-over-month basis. So I would just say, take care of all of the things and then understand your profit margin after that. And then you can grow and you can scale and you can implement the right process and hire the right employees in doing that. But it's very hard to implement any of these different things, at least in a scalable way. You can implement all of them yourself on a small amount of clients, but to implement them in a scalable way where you're growing a large sustainable business, then I think it's very important to really understand the economic drivers of your business. How does your business make revenue, and how much does it cost you to actually do that sustainably? And it kind of starts with paying yourself a salary.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. By the way, I would like to add one more thing. I mean, like, first of all, identify your strength and build on that strength instead of try to get involved in everything. For example, if your strength is, let's suppose, topical authority, or if, for example, like me, for example, I'm not getting into other stuff like links, like audits, or like some local SEO. What I do, I say, okay, this is my strength. I have to talk every time about this. Otherwise, I want it to be a synonym for this word, topical authority. And like most of the businesses, I mean, they try to get involved in everything. And also one more thing, what I feel or experienced, they try to, instead of hiring resources, they try to hire one person and ask them to manage multiple tasks and multiple disciplines, and that person get like the morale down and everything. Okay, and ultimately there will be no results, and then once there will be no results, client will not be happy, he will not pay more, and ultimately disaster for the agency. So I guess Yes.
I think you're spot on, right? Like you're spot on. Like do what you're good at and find a way to make that a sustainable and growing business. And it really is hard to do all of it. Like I said, the reason that I'm doing all of it is because I'm just in that position where I'm working with clients that are of that size. They want to work with me. They want to interact with my company because I have that experience, right? We're guiding them in the right direction. Whereas like that's a lot of work, and I have to work with specialists like you in order for my business to succeed, right? Because I am doing a lot of different things, right? So I end up, kind of like I said earlier, I end up being a little bit of a staffing agency because I am doing a lot of different things, and that's fine. That's my business model. That's not your business model, but that's because my thing that I'm really good at is actually working with that business. So I want to handle all of it. But with what you're saying, it makes that's my strong suit. Your strong suit is topical authority, and sticking to that is very important, right? Because you're going to be able to grow there. And then it's about understanding who's your ideal client avatar. And if you're just doing topical authority, you're not doing links, you're not doing the other stuff, maybe your target avatar is somebody like me, right? Where like you want to work with other agencies and fulfill that sort of role for them, right? Now, understanding that, or not wasting your time necessarily going direct to client. Like all of these things are things that you can figure out and build the business around based on what your skill set is. And there's lots of different ways to make money online and through SEO. You can be a specialist in what you're doing. You can be a generalist. But yeah, knowing your audience and being able to build around that is super important.
Hmm. Yeah, amazing and amazing tips, by the way. I think this is one of the transparent conversations I had with someone, and thank you for sharing your experience and insights. And I wish all the best for your agency, Brand North, and clients. And I think we should do part two as well because there's a lot more to cover. There's a
Yeah,
lot more to cover.
we'll see if anybody listens to it. If they listen to it and they like it, we get enough comments. I'll tell you what, we'll come back for another one.
Yeah, this thing should never stop, and I mean it's very helpful for the community, I feel. So thank you once again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah, my pleasure. I tried to give a little bit of a different perspective. Wanted everybody to understand kind of like a different way to look at the business side of topical